Good morning, I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for nearly the entire East Coast as ELSA moves north. The storm left a trail of destruction across the south. Multiple tornadoes touched down, including one at a naval base in Kings Bay, Georgia, injuring at least 10 people. ELSA is now expected to move into the mid-Atlantic states tonight and approach the northeast by Friday morning. Heavy rain and flash flooding are possible for major northeast cities from Philadelphia to New York and Boston. And police in Haiti say 4 suspects in the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse have been killed in a shootout overnight. 2 other suspects were taken into custody after they took several police officers hostage. Officials say all 3 of the officers being held were safely released. Haiti's interim prime minister, Claude Joseph, is now taking charge temporarily and calling for new elections. The death toll worldwide from COVID-19 has officially topped 4 million people. This morning, the Olympic minister said the games there in Tokyo will be held without fans after Japan declared a state of emergency amid surging COVID cases there. And in the U.S., communities with lower vaccination rates are seeing a rise in cases. But according to a new study, America's rapid vaccine rollout has saved up to 279,000 lives. Meanwhile, in Surfside, Florida, officials say at least 60 people have been killed and 80 are still unaccounted for 2 weeks after that deadly condo building collapse. Overnight, the Surfside community held a moment of silence for the victims after officials announced the mission has moved from search and rescue to recovery. Now, I want to bring in St. Louis Fire Chief Dennis Jenkerson for more on this. Chief, I know you haven't been there on the scene in Surfside, but I know you've seen other scenarios like this. Based on your expertise, what do you think some of the key factors were in determining this switch from rescue to recovery? The fire chief there cited medical considerations as well as engineering considerations. What does that mean?
Right. When they talk about the engineering considerations, they as they search through the rubble of the collapse, they've pretty much come to realize that this is a complete and total pancake collapse, meaning there are no voids. At first, they had a few areas that they were able to search in the basement and the garage area, but right now it's just concrete floor and ceiling upon concrete floor and ceiling. There is no space left for a human or an animal even to be considered viable. Tough decision to make that move from rescue mode to recovery. It's a very difficult decision that weighs on all the rescuers involved, with this mission, because they put their heart, their soul, their blood, their sweat trying to make a rescue, and the move to that next phase is always difficult on them, and even more small relatives and the people that were holding out hope that possibly they might find somebody here. But this was a classic, perfect pancake type collapse with no voids or W spaces, if you will, left within inside this pile of rubble. So it's been a tough 2 weeks on the people holding out hope and also the rescuers.
It sure has. So now that they have made that transition, what does that mean for the operation moving forward, going from rescue to recovery?
What it means is they'll be able to bring in quite a bit more of heavy lifting equipment and tunneling equipment and digging equipment, and to be able to take off these layers of ceilings and floors and, identify and recover the bodies that were left. You have to remember, this happened at 1:15, 1:30 in the morning when most people were in their bedrooms. So they'll be able to get to those rooms and identify as they peel back the layers of these 12 floors and move through this pile. It's going to move a little quicker now. With moving quicker, they have to still maintain a level of respect with the bodies and the recovery of the loved ones of the people who were for some type of closure, and to make it, we did fine. We're going to handle that individual with respect.
All right, Chief, you're breaking up a little bit. I'm going to try to ask one more question. We'll see if the connection holds or not.
Okay.
But one of the things that they talked about now is this effort to save and catalog personal items, things like photos, documents, wallets. How do they go about doing that, and why is that so important?
What they'll do, they'll go into a system of recovery where every inch every square into a grid. They'll use computer imaging to dot where the different items were found. And as they bring the they'll be able to pick up on jewelry, different types of mementos, as you said before, and catalog all this, where it was found, where it was, at what time, what kind of condition, in hopes of making sure that they can identify every individual that was possibly in that building and every bit of clothing, every bit of remains that are brought out. So it's still a very tedious process, but this is part of the recovery effort, and it's going to make the documentation for the individuals a whole lot easier, but it still takes a tremendous amount of time and documentation to get all this stuff in order. Like I said, they have to screen every bucket of cement and dust that they bring out of here, trying to look for, like I said, a ring, a watch, and an earring, anything that's going to give them a clue as to who was in this layer as they peel back the layers of these 12 floors.
All right, St. Louis Fire Chief Dennis Jenkerson, we appreciate your time today. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, prayers are with everybody working down there and all of the relatives of the people.
Absolutely. And GLEE star NAYA Rivera's family is opening up 1 year after her tragic death. Juju Chang spoke to NAYA's mother and sister about her career, her life, and of course her son Josie. Take a look.
NAYA Rivera was a triple threat talent on GLEE. She could act, she could sing, and boy, could she dance. But on July 8th, 2020, everything would change.
It was a beautiful morning. I missed 2 of her FaceTime calls, and I called her back, and I said, NAYA, where are you? She's like, me and Josie were gonna go to the lake, and I was gonna have them fish.
And do you remember what you said in those final FaceTime moments?
I told her, I go, well, the water's getting choppy. And I said, I love you, and call me. Call me when you get off the water.
Yolanda talked to her daughter from that rented pontoon boat as the devoted single mom set out for adventure on Lake Piru with her son. But hours later, the then 4-year-old Josie was found by another boater, asleep, adrift, alone wearing a life vest. NAYA was gone.
He told us, he said, don't worry, we have Josie, but your daughter's missing. And it was almost like a force. I don't know what it was, but I was just pushed backwards, just screaming.
For 5 grueling days, rescue teams searched day and night, the GLEE family holding vigil lakeside.
We saw people holding vigil, people holding hands, sending prayers. What were those days like for you guys?
Those first 5 days were
hell.
Awful.
Hell on earth.
Hell on earth. My faith told me that nothing is missing, surely not a person. Yes, we just can't find them. So that was my thing. God, you know where she's at. Just bring her back to us. Thank God I took the pictures because they were able to look at the topography of the land to locate where they were.
You took screenshots?
I took screenshots of the FaceTime call.
NAYA was found 6 days later. Investigators believe she managed to save her son, but then drowned accidentally. Her younger sister, Nikole, moving in with the boy's father, the fashion model now helping to raise little Josie.
He literally asked you to come be with him and live with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew right when it happened and right when we got him, I knew the role that I had to take.
Now I see Josie, and it's almost like, it's so reminiscent because he's like a boy version of her in every sense of the word.
In what way?
Just his tenacity, his drive, his zeal, his adventure for life. He's NAYA in boy form.
He loves entertaining.
Yes.
He loves singing at the top of his lungs.
From a young age, NAYA was a force to be reckoned with, but her breakout role, GLEE's Santana Lopez, an openly queer Latina.
Because all I want to be able to do is kiss my girlfriend, but I guess no one can see that because there's such an insane double standard at this school.
You know, I honestly don't think that she even knew the impact that she had. People would come up to her all the time and say, "You saved my life." My sister, even though she was acting was touching people's real lives and helping them become who they really are and not being ashamed of that.
Today, Yolanda hopes that Naya's life leaves one lasting message.
I would like my daughter's, Naya's, legacy to be one that teaches people to love. Love who you are, because you don't get another life.
Of course, Naya had no greater love than for her son. They say the 5-year-old Josie is a talented performer, just like Naya. And while he misses his mother deeply, they tell him, Mom's watching over you from heaven, and we're going to take care of you right here on earth. Naya's family says they are most of all full of gratitude for the outpouring of love they've had in the past year. Diane?
Such a sad story and a beautiful interview. Juju, thank you. And up next, we will hear from the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist initially denied tenure at the University of North Carolina, unlike her white predecessors. What she's saying now about that decision and her response after the break. Welcome back. Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones is speaking out after announcing she will not be headed to UNC. The creator of the 1619 Project was poised to become the first ever African-American to be named Knight Chair for Race and Investigative Journalism at UNC Chapel Hill. But the university's board declined to award her tenure, unlike all previous chairs. UNC later reversed that decision, but Hannah-Jones turned down their offer, announcing she will join the faculty of Howard University instead. Now she's telling her side of the story to our own Lindsay Davis.
So you released a 4-page statement explaining your decision to turn down UNC, in which you wrote, at some point, when you have proven yourself and fought your way into institutions that were not built for you, when you've proven that you can compete and excel at the highest level, you have to decide that you are done forcing yourself in. Did you ever at all have the expectation that your confirmation to tenure would be so controversial, or were you completely blindsided by the initial decision?
No, I had no idea. I had been recruited for this position for a couple of years by Dean Susan King, who heads the journalism school there. I'm an alum of the University of North Carolina School of Journalism. I've received numerous awards from the university, including being inducted into the North Carolina Media Hall of Fame. And I have, the same or matching, or, in some ways in excess of the credentials and awards of the other people who have held that position. So I went through the tenure process. The faculty who have the expertise to judge my worthiness for tenure unanimously approved my tenure. And it was the political appointees at the Board of Trustees that stopped it. So I had no idea. I certainly believed that I was as qualified as anyone else who had received tenure in that position before.
And explain to our viewers why tenure matters.
Well, tenure matters for exactly the reason that I didn't initially receive it, which is tenure is a protection that allows for full academic freedom. It means that professors cannot be punished and penalized for the work that they do. Oftentimes, academics are doing research and producing work that can be seen as controversial or that challenges the status quo, and this protects the ability to pursue work that may not be popular with people who are politically powerful. So the fact that I was initially denied tenure, largely because of the nature of my works, specifically around conservative objections to the 1619 Project, speaks to why I could not come to the university without it.
Twice, the UNC Board of Trustees declined to vote on offering you tenure, and only did so last week, days before you were set to start. You wrote that times like these demand courage, and those who have held the most power in this situation have exhibited the least of it. What message do you feel that UNC's leadership has sent to black scholars, not only on their campus, but across the country?
Well, I think the Board of Trustees not voting was one thing, but to also have the chancellor and the provost of the university fail to speak out publicly, fail to say that the Board of Trustees should have treated me like every other professor who came in under the Knight chair, I think that sent the message to other faculty on campus that they would not have the protection and the support of administration if it came down to a fight with political appointees. I think it showed that there was not a respect for what Black faculty go through on campus, and that they need to have the stated and public support and the courage of leadership when our work is challenged. So we know that faculty got that message. We know that the University of North Carolina lost some recruits over this, that other Black faculty are considering leaving the university. And I think one of the reasons that this case of mine became such a big deal is faculty all across the country, Black faculty that come from other marginalized groups, said that if they were able to do this to me, I work at the New York Times, I have a huge megaphone, I have a huge platform. What do they think they could get away with when it came to lesser known scholars who have been doing this work for a long time, but may not be able to draw the attention when they're treated unfairly?
And you talk about what Black faculty goes through on campus. As you know, the story of prominent Black scholars being denied tenure is not new. We certainly interviewed Professor Cornel West, who left Harvard after not getting tenure, as well as Dr. Paul Harris, who has since left UVA even after they granted him tenure. And if we were to talk about Black female professors in particular at four-year colleges, according to the Chronicle for Higher Education, they account for only 2.1% of tenured professors. How do you explain the disparity?
Well, in some ways, it becomes a kind of self-replicating. So on any college campus, typically, the people who can vote for tenure are only full professors who already have tenure. So if we have universities that for decades were only really tenuring white men and then started to tenure white women, those are the people who are ultimately deciding the worthiness of the scholarship. And if Black scholars are doing scholarship in areas of race or inequality or the Black experience, that is often not valued the same as other types of scholarship. And so that gatekeeping is what is often keeping Black scholars from getting tenure. So at the University of North Carolina, I would have not only been the first Black Knight chair, I would have been the first full professor who was a Black woman in the 70-year history of that school. There's only been one Black woman tenured in the 70-year history of that school. So while my case is a big case in that it got a lot of attention, these issues are long-standing. And I tried to make clear in my letter, my open letter, that simply resolving my issue doesn't resolve the larger obstacles and discrimination that Black faculty and particularly Black women scholars face all across this country. And so I hope that other universities who might find it easy to point at the Board of Trustees in North Carolina and say, well, they're just backwards, will do some real internal introspection on the way that they are also blocking so many talented Black faculty who have dedicated their life to academia from this very important protection and also prestige on the campus.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Our thanks to Lindsay Davis for that interview. And that does it for us here on ABC News Live. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. I'll see you back here at 3 p.m. Eastern for the breakdown. Stay safe. Have a great day.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.